The National Basketball Association, or NBA, began in 1949. It consisted of 8 franchises spread throughout Northeast and Midwest America. The league was dominated by players like Bill Russell, George Mikan, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Then in 1967, the American Basketball Association, or ABA, was created. It consisted of 11 teams spread throughout the United States. A few of the most dominant players in the ABA included Julius Erving, George McGinnis, Mel Daniels, and Artis Gilmore. Ex-NBA player George Mikan became the commissioner of the ABA at the start of its creation. Although both leagues are centered around the sport basketball, the way that the basketball was played in each league was very different. The basketball played in the NBA was bland and had little grace. The offenses in the NBA were slow and unentertaining due to the heavily scripted plays and sets. The defense had an emphasis on fundamentals and they didn't take risks, such as reaching in for the ball or stepping in passing lanes. The ABA was a league known for its breakneck playground approach. Its offenses were more chance-taking and less scripted. ABA teams used improvised plays and adjusted to the ways defenses played them. Defenses were more risk-taking by ball swiping, stepping into passing lanes, and getting into heated arguments. The ABA also introduced different ways to spice the game up that were not seen in the NBA. These include the three-point line, which was introduced in 1967, and its signature red, white, and blue ball. The ABA also hosted a dunk contest, which was not introduced to the NBA until 1984. Here's a clip of Julius Erving, the winner of the 1976 ABA dunk contest.
The man that has turned the slam dunk into an art, who has thrilled ABA fans with moves that have been beyond comprehension. At 6'6" for the New York Nets, the fabulous Dr. J. Julius Erving.
The American Basketball Association decided to merge with the National Basketball Association due to its financial struggles and the NBA's rising popularity and success. The merger helped shape the way basketball is played in today's NBA and has caused a tremendous boost in its popularity throughout the world. Without this merger, today's NBA might not include the same aspects that were presented by the ABA, and it wouldn't have that extra flair introduced by the ABA. During the time of the ABA and NBA merger, there were many political and social problems circulating around the world. Although not all the problems affected the merger, there were a few that greatly affected the players in the league. The Vietnam War began in 1955 and lasted until 1975. It was a long and costly war. The war pitted the communist government of Northern Vietnam against South Vietnam and its principal ally, the United States. The war was known as the Impossible War to Win. The Civil Rights Movement was a struggle for social justice that took place during the 1950s and 1960s. Major civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X led a push for equal rights. Different protests and events led to the passing of many congressional acts that helped African Americans obtain equal rights. As President of the United States, John F. Kennedy confronted mounting Cold War tensions, led a renewed drive for public service, and provided federal support for the growing civil rights movement. John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. His death left the United States in shock and turned Kennedy into a larger-than-life heroic figure. On June 28, 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club located in Greenwich Village, New York City. The raid sparked a riot among bar patrons and neighborhood residents and led to 6 days of protests and violent clashes with law enforcement. The Stonewall riots served as a preamble to the gay rights movement in the United States. These events and many more events during the 1960s and 1970s affected the ABA and NBA in a great manner, along with the United States as a whole. Now back to basketball. Even at the creation, the ABA owners had the idea of merging with the NBA in the back of their minds. The ABA was struggling financially while the NBA was prospering. The ABA's competition with the NBA led them to struggle financially because of the NBA's success in attracting sponsors and the best players. The ABA saw the NBA as a way to avoid going into debt or bankruptcy, and a way to earn lots of money. The ABA and NBA merger was halted by many lawsuits and litigations concerning players' rights and owners' wants and needs. The biggest lawsuit to appear was Oscar Robertson versus the National Basketball Association. Oscar Robertson was president of the NBA Players Association and a player representative for the Cincinnati Royals, but he was soon traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Players Association filed an antitrust lawsuit on April 16, 1970, against the NBA. Here's a clip from the federal hearing.
I think anytime you limit a person that's to where it can go, such as the case was prior to the 2 leagues. You know, I think it's terribly wrong.
It's wrong to limit the amount of money that a man can earn.
I think in America it is.
Well, does the draft system do that?
I think if you only had 1 league, this is true. As long as you have 2 leagues, there's no telling what a person can earn.
You seem to have done pretty well. Do you think you're worth more than the $100,000 you're getting?
To be honest with Frank, I think so.
Oscar Robertson pushed for the elimination of the option or reserve clause, which binded a player to one team for life at the team's option. This became known as the Oscar Robertson rule. Robertson also pushed for an economic benefit through the lawsuit. On April 29, 1976, the NBA agreed to a class action settlement with the Players Association 2 years after Robertson's retirement from professional basketball. On August 5, 1976, a couple months after the settlement of the lawsuit, the NBA and ABA agreed to combine. 4 ABA teams joined the NBA: the Denver Nuggets, the Indiana Pacers, the New York Nets, and the San Antonio Spurs. The other ABA teams either folded before the merger or sent their players to the dispersal draft. Here are some of the short-term impacts of the merger. At the start, ABA players and teams were given little control in the NBA. Some teams were even forced to pay their way into the NBA. At the start of the season following the merger, ABA players showed they belonged in the NBA. In fact, they flourished in the NBA. And going into the All-Star game, almost half of the players were ex-ABA players. Some ABA teams had collapsed before the merger, and some didn't make it through the merger. But they developed deals with the NBA, giving them some money in return. The style of the game changed due to the influence of the ABA players. The game in the NBA was played faster and more aggressively after the merger. Here are some of the long-term impacts of the merger. The NBA implemented the three-point line to the game in the 1979-1980 season. The line was shortened from what it was in the ABA. The league would even introduce the three-point contest as a part of the NBA All-Star Weekend experience. The NBA introduced the dunk contest to the All-Star game in 1984. The dunk contest has developed over the years, and it is now one of the most popular aspects of the NBA All-Star experience. Over the years, the NBA has expanded from 22 teams at the merger to 30 teams today. Some of the new teams include the Toronto Raptors, the Miami Heat, the Memphis Grizzlies, and more. The league has gained massive popularity since the merger, and it seems to keep growing. The league has surpassed all other sports associations in the United States in popularity. The NBA is widely popular in other countries as well, and there are over 100 current NBA players who were foreign-born. The NBA has brought an entertaining showcase of professional basketball to many people around the globe. With all the different aspects surrounding the league, including the fans, the players, and the owners, the league has excelled ever since the merger and has reached amazing heights. This lasting legacy of both leagues is still seen in the NBA, and without the merger, the NBA wouldn't be the same.
Well, some people say faith is a childish game. Play on children like it's Christmas Day.